Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is my second video. I had my newbie book tag, newbie booktube tag, the first video. So if you watched that and if you subscribed and or commented really nice things, thank you. That meant a lot. I didn't expect that. That was really cool to see. So I'm excited to make this one. I've been under the weather for the past 3-4 days, but I'm excited to go. Today is the last day of week 38 for the year. So week 38 out of 52, which it seems like 2024 is going way by, but we still have 14 weeks left, so I like to look at it like that. So today I just wanted to go over, I read my 70th book this month. I don't know which one of these it is, but that was kind of cool, I guess, and I want to just go over what I'm reading and just talk about it, because I read some good ones. And if you hear squeaking, it's because Maya is playing with her toy right now. She's like on autoplay, so she's just bouncing around. So I'll try to get her on the camera if she'll have it, but she's running around, so maybe not. I think so. One of the books I read was Nathaniel Hawthorne's *The Scarlet Letter*. Obviously, very famous book. The edition first I thought was really cool. So it's called a word cloud. Yeah, a word cloud classic. So it's kind of like it's got like I don't know what's the like when you ring your fingers, it's like indented. There's a word for it, but I'm slow today. Hester Prynne, she wears the scarlet letter, the letter A, for a sin that she commits. So she has a kid, and they don't know who the father is. And this is a very religious place, kind of like a quote utopia place that she lives, and she is essentially outcast. Extremely famous book. You're probably familiar with it. I've never read Nathaniel Hawthorne before. I knew what this book was about, and I forget where I picked this up, but I thought it was a cool edition. And it's a classic, and I was written in I think in the 1800s. I forget, yeah, so 1850s or something like that. But it's easy to read. It's not overly wordy. Some classics like Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, I found that to be kind of wordy and sometimes tough to get through. This was like that a little bit, but readable classic, and it's always going to be relevant to societal things, I think. And if you haven't read it, I do recommend. I mean, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I think it's an excellent book, and yeah, so read that one. I'll put that one over there. I read my first horror novel. It's called The Fisherman. John Langan. I think I got this recommended from Nick from Books Are Sick. I love his channel. He's just like a dude, like I think like you just want to hang out with, and like he just seems like a really like fun, like engaging guy. And I just that's where I get a lot of my recommendations are just booktubers and obviously the internet, and a lot of times like books that are mentioned inside of books. I have this is a side note, but I have this theory that I've noticed this, that when I read books, they always mention authors and other books in their books. I'm trying to think of a book that hasn't done that in recent memory, and I think most books do, and it makes sense because writers love books and they've read their whole lives, so they mention other works. And I just find that interesting. I never thought about it like that before until I noticed like this trend. I might be a little slow on the uptake here. Maybe everybody notices that, but I noticed that recently. But anyway, The Fisherman, John Langan, it's literary horror, which was a weird genre mashup, because I love literary fiction, but I didn't really know what to make of that description. And it's described as a quiet and powerfully melancholy story about loss and grief, the impossibility of going on in the same manner as you had before. Upstate New York, which is where I live, basically, it's Dutchman's Creek is like this sort of haunted. The book goes into the supernatural, and it kind of these two guys who have suffered losses in their life. They've both had a great personal loss. They come together as fishermen, and they take solace in this activity. And at Dutchman's Creek, things just basically go sideways. I like this a lot. I didn't know what to make of it. I didn't know whether I would be like scared by a horror book. Typically, I don't jump at horror movies or anything like that, but occasionally some of the horror movies I've watched, which is not a lot, but they kind of get to me. So I didn't know how I would do with this one. I liked it, though. I thought it was great. Yeah, soon, though, the men find themselves drawn into a tale as deep as old as the reservoir. It's a tale of dark pacts, of long buried secrets and a mysterious figure known as Der Fisher, the fisherman. I definitely recommend it. I don't know much about horror. Maybe somebody can recommend horror books. I have never read Stephen King. This is the first horror, and I don't even know if it counts as like full on horror. I do have The Exorcist in my TBR, which is, well, it's my physical TBR. It's literally in my cabinet over in my office. So yeah, this was like I think a soft introduction to that. So yeah, it was good. And also I'm a sucker, like I just like this type of like sturdy paperback. I don't know, I just do. I like Hemingway. I've read a couple Hemingways now. This was Across the River and To the Trees. I have read, and I do plan to do like a series going backwards about what I've read, but I've read a couple of Hemingways. This is my third, I think. I really like the way he writes, and it's very direct. It's spare when it needs to be, and it expounds when it needs to, I feel. And that's kind of like my style. So this is, I think you would, I mean, it's set in Venice at the close of World War II. The bittersweet story of a middle-aged American colonel scarred by war, falls in love with a young Italian countess at, his life has become a physical hardship to him. So he's not doing well, and he meets this girl who he's in love with, and it's sad and tragic, and there's a lot of delving into his psyche. And I found it to be up and down. It's not my favorite Hemingway, but I still liked it. It's still something that I think if you're interested in historical fiction, which is I think Hemingway kind of does a lot of that, I think. And I think it's, yeah, it only spans a matter of hours. It's not too long of a book. It's about, well, it's a solid 285 pages, something like that. But if you like Hemingway, I think it's a good read. If you're just new to Hemingway, there's other ones that I would recommend first. But like I might say, The Sun Also Rises, I loved, and or the shorter, almost a novella is what's the one? The Old Man and the Sea. Great story, but still like this book. Love Hemingway. I have to get more of him on my TBR. Moving on. This one's called Ice Fields. Again with the cover. I don't know. I love, like, this is just a satisfying feeling book. I don't do it. Does anybody else get like that, where you just like you feel it and it's just like you get excited to read it? Even the way the words are on the page. I don't know if you can see this, but it just even has like a nice thick, like almost like cardstock. I might be weird. I know you can tell me if I'm weird, but like I think it's really cool when it's like that, just because I don't know, it's just satisfying to like, it was just satisfying to just turn a page. It just feels sturdy, you know. And you would think I would like hardcovers. I just don't. I just like, I don't know. But Ice Fields by Thomas Wharton, who is this is described as an uncommonly beautiful novel. I'll read a couple sentences of the back. He's a Canadian writer, and Thomas Wharton, its final sentence, "I want to show you something rather extraordinary," might have been its first. Nearly every page gave me something new to marvel at, an image, a gesture, a sudden insight into a character. It's about this glacier that this glaciologist, someone who studies glaciers, this Dr. Byrne, is basically obsessed with. And it does span a number of years. And it kind of covers the gamut of relationships, love, the downfalls of just industrialization, sort of, I guess. It's also almost like, I was reading this, I'm like, this is like almost close to poetry at times, which I've never read poetry, but I'd say this is literary fiction probably to a T. But it does have a lot of Canadian kind of references. I don't live in Canada, so I don't know, but certain areas, which I guess it covers fairly well. I would agree with that statement. This is an uncommonly beautiful novel. I'd say if you know what you're getting into with this, and you don't expect just like a story about a guy named Dr. Byrne, and there's other characters as well, obviously, like they bring it together. But if you just expect like something that's introspective and not literally just about glaciers, but something that will look at like the human psyche and how we view changing events and time and people around us, as long as you go into it with the right expectations, I think that you might like the book. I mean, if you're a straightforward story person, I don't know, but I loved it. I mean, I would give it 5 stars. I probably did on my Goodreads. I know I did. So yeah, Ice Fields by Thomas Wharton. The second to last book. I just finished this the other day. This is A Dinner by Herman Koch. This had to be translated from German, I think. It's chilling, nasty, smart, shocking, and unputdownable. The author of Gone Girl said that. So I saw the reviews on this, and they were very mixed. I don't mind if I don't like the characters in the book. I really don't. I mean, some characters are detestable. This takes place over, much like what was the one? Oh, much like Across the River and Through the Trees, the Hemingway book. It takes place over the course of just a few hours, over the dinner, right? And there's two brothers. One's famous and one isn't. They get together because their children have done something not great, right? And it reminds me of that movie Carnage. It's not the same thing, but if you've seen that movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. Where it's just like a meeting of parents, there's emotions. It takes a lot of turns I didn't expect. I expect only so much out of like a thriller type book. This one, I really like this book because it took turns I didn't expect it to take. So basically, they're at dinner and their wives are there, and you have kind of like a slow. It gets darker and darker as it goes, and you get like a slow unveiling of what actually happened with their sons. And some of it is vague, and yeah, I think some of it was probably left unexplained, but overall, I liked it. And yeah, if you need to like really like all of the characters, I think you might be disappointed because there's some stuff they do that you'll probably disagree with, I'd imagine. And I think that's kind of where I saw people kind of review bombing it. But I also kind of wonder this, like there was not to get ahead of myself, but there was a DNF book. I didn't finish this book called The Good Liar by Nicholas Seary, I think. Now, The Good Liar was supposed to be a thriller, and it was about, but it was I found it to be boring, right? And it was about an older guy, like literally like 80s or something, and he was like this con man back in his day, and now he was trying one last con. I got about 80 pages in, which was like a third of the book, or 30%, and I just put it down. So that's kind of like when people review bomb this book. Now that book just wasn't for me. It might be for you, the Good Liar. But I don't know. Like if I don't know how people feel about this. If I didn't like a book, I would just put it down. Like I would just. There's so many books I want to read. That's like my opinion. I'm not a completionist. It doesn't happen a lot, but I think I probably have 3 or 4 DNFs on my list this year. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with it. If you read half the book, I don't know. The people are weird. Like they're like, well, you can't credit it. You can't say you read it if you didn't read the whole thing. And just, I don't know. My opinion is if you don't like a book, you read enough of the book. You can mark down you read the book and maybe not give it a rating. I don't know. People are weird about all these ratings and stuff. I think just you're missing the point of reading. I think it's just more, just have fun with it. But I really liked this. It's a hard recommend, but I liked it in the sense that as long as you know what you're getting into, like it'd be good to read synopses of the plot, get a gist of it. Yeah, so it's kind of like I liked it, but tough to recommend, I think. And then what I'm reading now, and this is I think my favorite. Let me see. Other than like maybe Ice Fields, I think this will be my second. The others I think are 3 or 4 stars, but I think that The Storied Life of AJ Fikry. My sister recommended this to me, and I love it so far. I'm on page 160 something, 162. I don't know. I'm like 3/4 of the way, almost done. I love this so far. This is a sort of a light read, but it has enough in it where it keeps you hooked. It's not. It doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel like I'm reading something like a filler book, anything like that. I'll read just part of the back. AJ Fikry, the character, his life is not at all what he expected it to be. He lives alone. His bookstore is experiencing the worst sales in history, and now his prized possession, a rare collection of Poe poems, has been stolen. But when a mysterious package appears at the bookstore, its unexpected arrival gives Fikry the chance to make his life over and see everything new. I like this blurb because when you read this blurb, it's not at all what the book turns out to be, which is a pleasant surprise because I don't want to ruin any part of this book, because if I say any part of the plot, like if you just read that blurb I read, you would, at least I did, like I thought of a certain type of book I thought I was going to read, and then it quickly morphed into something like that far exceeded my expectations, and I was happy that it did. I'm also happy I didn't read any reviews, anything like that. I just kind of bought the book. It was in my shelf over there of like my physical TBR, and I just picked it up, and I've loved it. And I started it like a day or two ago, and I might finish it today, definitely by tomorrow. But I loved it, and yeah, that's where I'm at. I mean, this has been a really good month of reading, I think. So I'm on, like, this will be my 7th book this month, which is a little bit slower. The last couple months I've read a little bit more, but I've been busy with work. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of go over that stuff, and yeah, that's it.